How you doing? Shane here with the Modern Warrior Project, and I'm going to knock out a quick video on a way to preserve your eggs. You know, there's a number of different ways actually to preserve eggs. Typically we throw them in the refrigerator, and that'll give you, I think, 1 to 2 weeks of storage time. However, the method I'm going to show you today will give you up around 6 months to a year, and it's called Isinglass. Now, Isinglass is not water glassing. That's a different technique, and I'll probably do a different video on showing you how to do that. It's a great technique as well. Isinglass came around, I want to say it was in World War II, when people were needing a different way to long-term preserve their eggs, and they came up with this. So Isinglass is a product made from the swim bladders of fish, and it's actually typically used in the to clarify wine in the wine making process. What we're going to do today is we're going to use it to, like I said, preserve our eggs. So first off, let me apologize for the background noise. It's the dishwasher running. I can't do anything about that. I'm in my kitchen. So what we need for this is we need some isinglass, and we actually sell this on our site, or you can get it at a brewery store as well. So we need some isinglass. We need some farm fresh eggs. I'll talk more about that in a minute. You need some water and some kind of a jar. So on the eggs, this has to be farm fresh eggs. You can't do this with store-bought eggs because of the process that they've already been through. It won't work, and so you want farm fresh eggs, and you don't want to wash them. Just FYI, you can leave eggs on the counter up to like 3 weeks if they're farm fresh, un-refrigerated, and they'll be fine. You do not want to wash them though, because that takes off the coating and allows air to get in there. So one of the things I'm going to do, because I've had these eggs for a few weeks, so before I even start, I'm going to crack one. I'll eat it later. Put it in here just to check and make sure that the eggs are still good, because I'd hate to preserve eggs, only to be bad and then find out later that I potentially screw that up. So I've got some water right now currently warming on the stove and pour it off. I don't want it to get too hot. We'll talk more about that in a minute. So let me go ahead and take and test an egg. If you've never had farm fresh eggs, they're so much better. You can tell they're so much thicker and richer as far as the yolk goes. Liquid's good, it smells good, so it's a good egg. So we're going to take our eggs and we are going to put them point side down if possible into our jar ahead of time. So I'm going to use a little do this so you can see it. As best you can, put them point side down. Obviously they're going to stay standing up. And you want all the eggs need to be completely submerged, so you don't want to go so high to where you can't submerge them. We're going to take some isinglass and grab some scissors. And we are going to essentially melt our isinglass into the warm water. Now the problem here is I have not used this particular brand that we have now for this, and this isn't traditional. It's, like I said, it's for wine clarifying. So I can't find an actual ratio on this. So I'm kind of guessing here. I know I wanted to, so I'm going to probably lean on the side of more, because essentially it's going to almost make like a gelatinous type of a coating once it cools down. So I'm going to melt this stuff down in the water. It's going to take a little bit. I'll probably fast forward through some of this so you don't sit there and watch it melt. It'll take a little time and dissolve this. If I need to, I may add another package or so. I think I might start with 2. And the way I'm going to eventually solidify on what is a good ratio is I'll test these eggs periodically and make sure that they are preserving. So my intent is to test them at around 2 weeks, and then 1 month, probably 3 months, 6 months, 7, 8, 9, 10. Supposedly it can go up to a year. Now, one thing to note on, the eggs preserved in this manner is some people claim that they have a chalky taste to them. So I'm going to try it both ways. As far as, so traditionally what they say, if you utilize these methods, it's not necessarily the best technique if you're going to use them for like fried eggs or scrambled eggs, but they're perfectly great for baking recipes or anything that you're going to cook eggs in. It doesn't really affect the taste. So I'm going to try that out too, especially around when we get into the months, to see how chalky they taste as a regular, cooked in a traditional egg manner. Okay, so I've dissolved it and now I'm just kind of letting the water cool down. Obviously, I don't want to put this water in there when it's boiling or too hot because it'll start to cook the eggs, and I definitely don't want that. So I'm considering adding ice to slow the process down, but I don't want to dilute the water too much. But I think I might add an ice cube or two in there just to slow it down, or to cool it down a little faster. And you don't want it to get too cool either, because as it starts to cool, it'll start to set into a little bit of a jello, like loose jello type consistency. And I don't want that to happen before I put it in there, so it's kind of finding that perfect zone of, okay, it's not too hot. And really, I probably didn't have to bring it as hot as I did, but I was a little bit impatient. I wanted to dissolve it. It was slow to dissolve, so I brought it up pretty hot. So you don't need to get it too hot. It just needs to dissolve, and you want to put it in there, and then we're going to let it cool down some. Okay, so we've got it cooled down enough now, and we're going to go ahead and pour the Isinglass water mixture into the eggs. And I'm using a canning jar and a canning funnel, which makes it a little bit easier. But it doesn't have to be a canning jar. We're not canning the eggs. So pour it in here nice and slow. And you want to make sure that it is completely submerged. You definitely don't want any egg sticking out. Right now I still have one that has a little bit of exposure, so I'm going to top it off some more. I'm also going to kind of grab some of this Isinglass. See, there's some in there, but that's just, I have extra mixture, so not a huge deal. And I'm going to leave it in here until it sets a little more. So I'm going to let it get down to room temperature and kind of see how good gelatinous it is. I'm going to leave the lid off while it does that, and then we'll just close it up, put it away, and then I'll try it in a few weeks, and I'll probably make a video when I do that as well and put it on our prepper food reviews or whatever they call that. All right, and that's it for Isinglass eggs. As you see, it's a pretty simple procedure. All in all, from the time I started, I think it was maybe 20 some minutes, and I was running off doing other things while I was letting it cool down. If I didn't have to let it cool down so much, it wouldn't be taking that long. Very simple procedure, and it allows you to store your eggs for 6 months to 6 to 12 months. As I said, throw them in this is outside the refrigerator, so you don't have to keep these refrigerated if I didn't mention that. I'll probably do a video on some other methods as well. I love eggs. If you know me, I've often talked about how they're like the perfect food, and they really are. They're amazing. That's it for Isinglass. Until next time.